Welcome to Chinese History and Mythology.
Hello friends, welcome back. Welcome back to Chinese History and Mythology. Friends, let us continue the story from Chronicles of the Eastern Zhou states. The Yue minister Wen Zhong returned from the state of Wu with troubling news. King Fuchai of Wu had agreed to make peace, but he demanded that King Goujian of Yue come to Wu at once and serve as a slave. The Grand Steward Bo Pi was already waiting by the river to escort him. Goujian heard this and burst into tears. Wen Zhong said calmly, "Crying will not help. Time is short. We must return to the capital and arrange everything at once." When Goujian returned to the capital, he saw that there were very few young men left in the city. His heart was full of shame. He gathered the treasures of the state and selected 330 young women. 300 were prepared as gifts for King Fuchai, and 30 were meant for Bo Pi. Before he left, Goujian wept before his ministers and said, "This journey may be a one-way road. I may never return." Wen Zhong comforted him. King Tang of Shang and King Wen of Zhou were once imprisoned, yet later they became great rulers. Hardship is the way heaven tests a man. Your day of revival will come. At the riverbank, Fan Li had already prepared the boats. Wen Zhong raised a cup of wine and offered a farewell blessing, saying that today's suffering would lead to tomorrow's rise, and that misfortune could become the root of virtue. Goujian asked the ministers who would go with him to face danger and who would remain behind to govern the country. Wen Zhong offered to stay and manage the state, while recommending that Fan Li accompany the king to deal with Wu. Fan Li agreed without hesitation. "To endure humiliation and protect my lord until he returns safely, I will not shrink from this duty." The other ministers also pledged their responsibilities. Goujian was deeply moved. In the end, he took only Fan Li with him and boarded the boat, sailing toward Wu without once looking back. On the boat, the Queen of Yue saw water birds flying freely above the river. She felt deep sorrow and began to sing a sad song. She lamented that even birds could fly where they wished, yet she herself was forced into exile. Goujian forced a smile and comforted her. "Our wings will grow strong one day. The time for us to rise again will come." When they arrived in Wu, Goujian first sent Fan Li to meet Bo Pi and present gifts in order to smooth the way. After that, Goujian and his queen came before the court with bare arms and chests, kneeling on the steps and begging forgiveness. King Fuchai looked down at them with a cold smile. "If I had wanted revenge for my father's death, you would not still be alive today." At that moment, Wu Zishu stood nearby with blazing eyes. He shouted loudly, "Release this man and you release a tiger back to the mountains." Goujian only pretends to be humble now because his life is in your hands. If he ever regains power, it will be too late to stop him. But Fuchai listened instead to Bo Pi. He did not kill Goujian. Instead, he ordered Goujian to live in a stone house beside the tomb of King Helu and work as a stable servant. Goujian had to raise horses and even lead the king's carriage by the reins when Fuchai went out. For 2 months, Goujian lived in the stone house. Fan Li stayed at his side day and night. Fuchai secretly sent people to watch them. They saw Goujian and Fan Li working hard without complaint. One day, Fuchai even noticed that Goujian and his queen were sitting beside a pile of horse dung, yet Fan Li still stood respectfully to the side, maintaining the proper order between ruler and minister. Fuchai sighed and said to Bo Pi, "These 2 men are truly pitiful. Perhaps we should let them go." Bo Pi immediately agreed. Just then, Wu Zishu rushed in again to stop him. He reminded the king of the lessons of history, saying that tyrants like King Jie of Xia and King Zhou of Shang had once spared dangerous enemies and later suffered disaster. Fuchai began to hesitate and summoned Goujian, intending to execute him. Bo Pi secretly warned Goujian in advance. Fan Li told him calmly, "You have endured 3 years already. 1 more day will not break you." At that time, Fuchai fell ill and remained in bed. Bo Pi persuaded him to postpone the execution, and Goujian escaped death once again. 3 months passed, yet Fuchai's illness did not improve. Fan Li proposed a desperate plan. "Your Majesty should taste the king's excrement and judge his illness. Then predict the day he will recover. In this way, you can win his complete trust." Goujian felt the humiliation deeply, but for the sake of Yue, he agreed. He asked Bo Pi for permission to visit the sick king. When Goujian entered the chamber, Fuchai suddenly needed to relieve himself. As the servants carried away the chamber pot, Goujian opened the lid, took some of the excrement with his hand, and tasted it. Then he knelt and said, "Congratulations, Your Majesty. The taste shows that your illness will begin to improve on the day called Ji Sai and will fully recover on the day called Ren Shen." Fuchai was astonished. "How can you know that?" Goujian replied, "I once learned medicine. The taste reveals the condition of the body." Fuchai was deeply moved. Even my own son would not do such a thing for me. Goujian is truly loyal and righteous. He decided that once he recovered, he would release Goujian. Soon, Fuchai's illness indeed improved. He held a banquet in the Wen Terrace and treated Goujian as an honored guest. Wu Zishu was furious and left the hall in anger. Bo Pi mocked him openly. During the banquet, Goujian and Fan Li praised the king again and again. 3 days later, Fuchai personally escorted Goujian out of the city and told him not to forget the kindness of Wu. Goujian swore loyalty and returned south. When Goujian returned to Yue, he felt as if he had been given a second life. He moved the capital to Mount Kuaiji and built a new city. The northwest corner of the city wall was deliberately left open. Officially, it was said that Yue dared not block the road used for tribute to Wu, but in truth it left a passage for future military campaigns. A spirit platform was also built on the mountain to inspire the people. Goujian never forgot his humiliation. He practiced what later became known as sleeping on brushwood and tasting gall. He slept on firewood instead of a bed and hung a bitter gall bladder in his room, tasting it every day. In winter, he embraced blocks of ice, and in summer, he sat near burning fires. In the middle of the night, he often woke and cried out the name Kuaiji, reminding himself of his defeat. He also encouraged population growth, rewarded families with children, and personally worked in the fields. The queen spun cloth with the women of the state. For 7 years, he collected no taxes, and the whole country lived simply while still sending tribute to Wu. Meanwhile, King Fuchai wished to enlarge the Great Terrace of Gusu for pleasure. Wen Zhong proposed a plan known as the 7 strategies to destroy Wu. The first step was to satisfy the enemy's desires, so Yue sent giant timber to Wu. Woodcutters in the mountains found 2 enormous sacred trees. Fuchai was delighted and accepted them, ignoring Wu Zishu's warnings that such grand construction would exhaust the people. The building of the Gusu Terrace lasted 8 years and consumed vast resources. Watching Wu grow more and more extravagant, Goujian said to Wen Zhong, "The timber has been sent. Next, we must send beautiful women. Only women of unmatched beauty can truly captivate the king." Wen Zhong replied with confidence, "If heaven has decided that Wu will fall, we will surely find such women. I already have a plan to search the entire country." And so, the next move in this long and patient plan against the state of Wu was about to begin. King Goujian of Yue never forgot his desire to restore his kingdom and take revenge. His minister Wen Zhong offered a strategy. "If we want to confuse the king of Wu, we must send him women of extraordinary beauty. Your Majesty should send people across the land to search for beautiful women, record their homes, and then select the finest among them to present as tribute." Goujian followed the advice. In half a year, the searchers reported more than 20 beauties. From them, 2 were chosen as the most beautiful of all. One was Xixi, the daughter of a woodcutter from the west village beneath Mount Zulo. The other was Zheng Dan, her neighbor. The 2 girls lived side by side and went every day to the river to wash silk. Their faces shone together like twin lotus blossoms on the same stem. Fan Li brought them to the capital with 100 taels of gold each as payment. When the people heard that such beauties had arrived, crowds rushed outside the city hoping to see them. Fan Li then set up a barrier and announced, "Anyone who wishes to see the beauties must first pay 1 coin." Soon the money chest was full. Fan Li later sent all the money to the state treasury. Goujian placed the 2 women in a separate palace and ordered an old court musician to teach them singing, dancing, and court etiquette. This happened in the 31st year of King Goujian of Zhou, the 7th year of Goujian's reign. At that time, the central states were in turmoil. Duke Jing of Qi had died, and his young son Tu became ruler. Yet the minister Chen Qi secretly supported the elder prince Yang Sheng. He launched a coup, killed the young ruler Tu, and placed Yang Sheng on the throne as Duke Dao of Qi. Later, Chen Qi's son Chen Heng poisoned Duke Dao and raised Jian Gong to the throne, taking full control of Qi. Duke Dao of Qi had a sister who married the ruler of Zhou. The state of Lu attacked Zhou and captured its ruler. Duke Dao grew furious and asked the state of Wu for troops to attack Lu. King Fuchai of Wu had long wished to expand into the Central Plains, so he agreed at once. Lu was terrified and quickly released the ruler of Zhou and apologized, but Fuchai grew angry. "Does the army of Wu move forward or retreat based on a single word from Qi? I will go to Qi myself and demand an explanation." Lu seized the chance to send gifts to Wu and proposed that the 2 states attack Qi together. The allied armies of Wu and Lu captured the southern lands of Qi. The people of Qi were shocked and blamed Duke Dao even more. Chen Heng took advantage of the chaos, poisoned Duke Dao, and sent word to the Wu army. "Heaven has already punished our ruler for offending your majesty. Please spare the people of Qi." Only then did Fuchai withdraw his army. Meanwhile, Shishi and Zhengdan studied music and dance in Yue for 3 years. Goujian then ordered them adorned with jewels and sent Fan Li to escort them to Wu. Fan Li entered the palace and bowed before King Fuchai. "My humble Lord Goujian of the Eastern Sea is grateful for your Majesty's mercy in sparing his life. He has found 2 women skilled in song and dance and now sends them as tribute." Fuchai saw that the 2 women were as beautiful as heavenly maidens. His mind was instantly captivated. Wu Zixu stood beside him and warned, "I have heard that the Xia dynasty fell because of Mei Shi, the Shang dynasty because of Daji, and the Zhou dynasty because of Baoxi. Beautiful women are the ruin of kingdoms. Your Majesty must not accept them." Fuchai replied, "Love of beauty is natural to all men. Goujian could have kept these women for himself, yet he sends them to me. That proves his loyalty. Do not suspect him without cause." He accepted the 2 women. Shishi was charming and seductive and soon won all of Fuchai's affection. She lived in the palace on the Gusu Terrace and traveled with ceremonies like a queen. Zhengdan lived in another palace but grew jealous of Shishi's favor. After 1 year of sadness, she died. Fuchai mourned her deeply, built a shrine for her, and later built the luxurious Guanhua Palace for Shishi. He also built a special corridor called the Ringing Walkway, where Shishi wore wooden clogs that made clear ringing sounds as she walked. From that time on, Fuchai spent his days in music, dancing, and pleasure with Shishi. He no longer attended court regularly, and even Wu Zixu was often refused an audience. When Goujian heard that the king of Wu had abandoned state affairs, he summoned Wen Zhong to discuss the matter. Wen Zhong said, "Our harvest in Yue has failed this year. We should ask Wu to lend us grain. If heaven truly wishes the fall of Wu, they will agree." Goujian sent Wen Zhong with heavy bribes for Bo Pi. Bo Pi brought him to the Gusu Terrace to meet Fuchai. Wen Zhong said, "This year, Yue has suffered poor harvests. The people are starving. My lord wishes to borrow 10,000 measures of grain. Next year, we will repay it in full." Fuchai answered, "The king of Yue is my subject. If the people of Yue starve, it is as if the people of Wu starve. How could I refuse to help?" Wu Zixu hurried to the palace and protested, "This must not be done. Either Wu will swallow Yue or Yue will swallow Wu. Their request for grain is part of a larger plan. Giving them grain will not strengthen relations. Refusing it will not necessarily create hatred. Your Majesty should decline." Fuchai shook his head. "Goujian already submitted to me. How could he betray me?" Wu Zixu replied, "The king of Yu rises early and sleeps late, working tirelessly with one thought only, revenge. If you feed them with your own grain, the day of disaster for Wu is not far away." Bo Pi shouted angrily, "Your words are excessive. How can you compare our king with tyrants like Jie and Zhou?" Then he turned to Fuchai. "To relieve famine in a neighboring state is proper conduct among rulers. Yue has already submitted to Wu. Helping them will only increase their gratitude." Fuchai finally agreed and lent Yu 10,000 measures of grain. "I ignore the advice of my ministers to help you. Next year you must repay it." Wen Zhong bowed deeply. "Your Majesty's kindness saves the people of Yu. We would never dare break our promise." The following year, Yue enjoyed a great harvest. Goujian asked Wen Zhong, "If we do not repay the grain, we lose our honor. If we repay it, we strengthen Wu. What should we do?" Wen Zhong answered, "Choose the finest grain, steam it, and then return it. The people of Wu will surely keep it as seed." Goujian followed the plan. Fuchai praised Yue for keeping their promise. Seeing the large grains, he told Bo Pi, "These seeds are excellent. Let us give them to the farmers." The farmers planted them, but none of the seeds sprouted. A famine soon spread across Wu. Fuchai believed it was caused by soil and climate differences, never realizing the grain had been cooked. Goujian heard of the famine and wanted to attack. Wen Zhong stopped him. "The time has not yet come. The loyal ministers of Wu are still alive." Fan Li added, "The day is not far away. Your Majesty should continue training the army." Goujian asked if their weapons were ready. Fan Li replied, "Brave soldiers must have superior skills. From swords and spears to bows and crossbows, they need masters to teach them. I have heard of a woman in Nanlin who is skilled in swordsmanship and a marksman from Chu named Chen Yin. They can train our troops." Goujian sent gifts to invite them. The woman of Nanlin had no family name and had grown up in the wild forests. Her skill with the sword came naturally. On her way to the capital, she met an old man with white beard who blocked the road and challenged her. He cut a bamboo branch and used it as a sword. When it snapped halfway, the woman leaped forward, seized the branch, and thrust back. The old man jumped into a tree and turned into a white ape before disappearing. When she met Goujian, she explained her method. Outwardly calm, inwardly alert. Move like a startled rabbit and rest like a quiet maiden. Energy fills the body and moves at will. If soldiers learn this skill, one can defeat 100. Goujian tested her against 100 warriors. She struck like lightning and knocked their weapons away. Goujian was deeply impressed and asked her to train 3,000 soldiers. At the end of the year, she left quietly and could never be found again. Chen Yin, a man from Chu, was famous for his archery. Fan Li hired him as instructor. Goujian asked him about the origin of the crossbow. Chen Yin explained how bows developed from slings and how the crossbow mechanism increased power. Goujian ordered 3,000 soldiers to train under him. After 3 months, their skill was complete. Chen Yin later died and was buried with honor. Wu Zishu soon heard that Yue was strengthening its army. He rushed to the Gusu terrace and cried before Fuchai, "You believe Goujian has truly submitted, yet he is training soldiers day and night. When Yu invades us, we will not be able to resist." Fuchai sent spies to confirm the report. The news was true. He asked Bo Pi why Yu still trained soldiers. Bo Pi replied, "Your Majesty returned the land of Yue to Goujian. Of course he must train troops to defend it." Still uneasy, Fuchai began to think about attacking Yue. At that time, Chen Heng of Qi also planned to destroy rival families within his state. Meanwhile, Confucius was living in Lu. When he heard that Qi planned to attack Lu, he sent his disciple Zigong as envoy. Zigong traveled between the states of Qi, Wu, Yue, and Jin, persuading each ruler with clever arguments. Through his diplomacy, Wu finally attacked Qi instead of Yue. In the spring of the 36th year of King Goujian of Zhou, Goujian sent 3,000 soldiers to assist Wu in its campaign against Qi. Fuchai gathered armies from 9 districts and marched north. Before the campaign, Wu Zishu again warned him that Yue was the true danger. Fuchai grew angry and later forced Wu Zishu to take his own life with the sword named Shulu. Wu Zishu cried out before dying that Yue would soon destroy Wu. Fuchai ignored the warning and continued his northern campaign. While he was competing with Jin for leadership among the states at Huangqi, Goujian launched a surprise attack on Wu with 48,000 soldiers. The Wu army at home was weak, and the Yu forces defeated them, killed the crown prince, and burned the Gusu terrace. When Fuchai finally returned, Wu was already in disaster. He sent Bo Pi to beg Goujian for peace. Fan Li advised Goujian that Wu was not yet completely exhausted. Goujian agreed to make peace and withdrew his army. This happened in the 38th year of King Goujian of Zhou. Duke Zhong of Wei, named Kuai Kui, discovered that many treasures in the palace had been taken away by Duke Chu when he fled. Troubled by this, he discussed the matter with Hun Liangfu. Hun Liangfu said, "Your lordship can send a message to Duke Chu, saying that you wish to choose an heir and want him to return. If he is willing to come back, he will naturally bring the treasures with him." These words were overheard by Crown Prince Ji. The prince immediately sent warriors to seize Duke Zhuang and forced him to swear that he would never summon Duke Chu back. He also demanded that Hun Liangfu be executed. Duke Zhuang said helplessly, "I once made an agreement with Hun Liangfu and promised to spare his life 3 times. What should I do?" Prince Ji replied, "Then wait until he commits a 4th crime. At that time, he can be executed." Not long afterward, Duke Zhuang held a ceremony to celebrate the completion of a grand tent pavilion and invited the ministers to attend the feast. Hun Liangfu arrived wearing a purple robe and a fox fur coat, and he even entered the banquet hall without removing his sword. He drank and ate freely. Prince Ji ordered the guards to drag him down. Hun Liangfu asked, "What crime have I committed?" Prince Ji listed the charges. Wearing purple clothes is the first crime. Wearing fox fur is the second. Entering with a sword without removing it is the third. Hun Liangfu shouted, "The Lord once promised to spare my life 3 times. Prince Ji replied, "You proposed recalling the exiled ruler Jie and encouraging a son to oppose his father. That is a great act of rebellion and unfilial behavior. This is your 4th crime." Hun Liangfu could say nothing more. He lowered his head and accepted execution. A few days later, Duke Shuang dreamed that Hun Liangfu had turned into a ghost and was crying out in injustice. The minister Xu she performed divination and said, "There is nothing to fear." Yet after leaving the palace, he told others quietly, "When a wronged soul becomes a vengeful ghost, the ruler will surely die and the state will be in danger." He took his family and fled to the state of Song. The following year, Jin attacked Wei. The people of Wei expelled Duke Zhuang. Kuai Kui fled to the wrong tribes, where he and Prince Ji were both killed. From that time on, Wei submitted to Jin. Meanwhile, Bai Gongsheng returned to the state of Chu. He never forgot that his father had been killed by the state of Zheng. After the death of Wu Zishu, Bai Gongsheng spoke to the Prime Minister Zi Shi. The state of Zheng killed the former crown prince and murdered my father. This hatred cannot exist under the same heaven. If you pity the innocent prince, please send troops to attack Zheng. I am willing to lead the vanguard. Zixi replied, our new king has only recently taken the throne. The state is not yet stable. Revenge can wait. Bai Gongsheng pretended that he was preparing defenses against Wu and began training soldiers and forging weapons. Later, Zixi even helped Zheng and formed an alliance with them. Bai Gongsheng was furious. You refuse to attack Zheng and even help them. Zixi has gone too far. I will kill him first and then attack Zheng. Bai Gongsheng approached the brave warrior Xiongyi Liao. He placed a sword against his throat and said, if you refuse to follow me, I will kill you at once. Xiongyi Liao remained calm and answered, killing me would be no more difficult than killing an ant. Why be angry? Bai Gongsheng admired him and said, you are truly a brave man. He treated him as an honored guest, and Xiongyi Liao agreed to assist him. Bai Gongsheng then spread false news that Wu was about to attack Chu. He led troops into Wu territory, looted some land, and returned claiming great victory. He asked permission to enter court to present his achievements. Zixi did not suspect anything and agreed. Bai Gongsheng prepared 100 chariots and entered the capital. King Hui of Chu came to receive him in the hall. After Bai Gongsheng finished his formal greeting, the king noticed 2 strong men standing below the steps. Who are these men? The king asked. Bai Gongsheng replied, they are my officers, Shiqi and Xiongyi Liao. Suddenly, both men rushed forward. Shiqi drew his sword and struck Zixi. Xiongyi Liao drew his sword and struck Zixi. Bai Gongsheng shouted, why do the rest of you stand still? His 1,000 warriors surged forward. Zixi was captured alive. He said to Bai Gongsheng, when you fled to Wu, I remembered our family ties and called you back, even granting you a noble title. What wrong have I done to you that you now rebel? Bai Gongsheng replied, Jing killed my father, yet you made peace with them. I must avenge my father. How could I care about your small kindness? Zixi sighed, I regret not listening to Shenju Liang. Bai Gongsheng personally beheaded him. Shiqi urged Bai Gongsheng to declare himself king, but Bai Gongsheng replied, there are still several princes of Chu with noble titles. They should all be summoned first. At that time, the official Guanshu led his household soldiers to attack Bai Gongsheng but was defeated and killed. Meanwhile, Yu Gongyang secretly dug through a wall of the Gao residence and rescued King Hui. Lord Ye, Shenju Liang, heard that rebellion had broken out in the court. He gathered troops and hurried toward the capital during the night. The people lined the road to welcome him. Seeing that he wore no armor, they asked, why do you not wear armor? If rebels harm you, what hope will the people have? Lord Yi then put on armor. As he approached the capital, more people said, why hide yourself in armor? If we can see your face, we would gladly die. Lord Yi removed his armor again and raised a large banner on his chariot. The soldiers and citizens of the city welcomed him inside. Lord Yi led the people and soldiers to attack Bai Gongsheng. Bai Gongsheng fled to Mount Long and hanged himself. Shiqi buried the body and surrendered. When Lord Ye demanded to know where the body was hidden, Shiqi refused. Lord Ye ordered a large cauldron of boiling water prepared. If you do not speak, you will be boiled alive. Shiqi laughed. If the plan had succeeded, I would have become a high minister. Since it failed, it is only right that I die. How could I betray another man's corpse just to save my own life? He jumped into the boiling cauldron and died. Lord Ye restored King Hui to the throne, and the crisis in Chu passed. At the same time, King Goujian of Yue heard that famine had spread across Wu and that the people were filled with resentment. He decided to launch another attack on Wu. As the Yue army marched out of the capital, Goujian saw a large frog on the road with swollen belly and glaring eyes. Goujian stood up in his chariot and showed respect. His attendants asked, why does your majesty show respect to a frog? Goujian answered, its eyes glare like those of a brave warrior. I respect its spirit. The soldiers heard this and encouraged one another to fight bravely. Goujian issued orders. If both father and son are in the army, the father should stay home. If brothers are both soldiers, the elder should stay. If a man has parents but no brothers, he should return home to care for them. Those who are sick may return and will be supported by the state. The soldiers were deeply moved by Goujian's kindness, and the entire army cheered. The Yue army camped south of the river, while the Wu army camped on the north bank. At dusk the next day, Goujian ordered the left army to move silently along the river and form a secret line. The right army quietly crossed the river. Once battle began, the drums were to thunder loudly, to frighten the enemy. At midnight, the Wu army suddenly heard war drums shaking the night. They rushed out in confusion. Before they could see the enemy ahead, drums sounded again from another direction. Yue forces attacked from both sides and surrounded them. Goujian personally led 6,000 warriors in silence and charged into the center of the Wu camp. Surrounded on all sides, the Wu soldiers lost all courage and fled. After 3 defeats, the famous Wu generals Prince Gu Cao and Shu Menchao were killed. Fuchai fled back to the capital and shut the gates. Goujian ordered a fortress called Yue City built outside the walls to trap him. After months of siege, Wu ran out of food. Fuchai sent Wang Sun Luo barefoot with a bundle of thorns on his back to beg forgiveness. My humble Lord Fuchai once offended your majesty at Kuaiji. Later I allowed you to return to Yue. Now your majesty attacks Wu. I ask only that you show mercy once more. Goujian felt pity and almost agreed, but Fan Li said, Our king has endured 20 years of hardship. How can we stop now? Goujian refused. Wu envoys came 7 times and were rejected each time. One night the head of Wu Zishu appeared outside the southern gate of the city. The head was as large as a wheel and its eyes flashed like lightning. The Yu soldiers were terrified. Soon a violent storm struck the southern gate, killing many Yu soldiers. Wen Zhong and Fan Li came out in the rain and bowed toward the gate in apology. Later, both men dreamed that Wu Zishu rode a white horse and spoke to them. I know Yue will destroy Wu. Before my death, I asked that my head be hung on the eastern gate, but the king placed it on the southern gate. My loyalty has not ended. I cannot allow you to enter beneath my head. If you attack from the eastern gate, I will open the way. Goujian ordered the army to move east. As they reached the eastern wall, the waters of Lake Tai suddenly surged and broke a hole in the wall. Fan Li shouted with joy, Wu Zishu is opening the road for us. The Yue soldiers rushed into the city. Fuchai fled to Mount Yang with Wang Sun Luo and his sons. Hungry and exhausted, he ate raw rice and drank ditch water. When told that it was raw rice, he sighed, In panic we cannot even cook our food. The words of Gongsun Sheng have come true. Goujian soon surrounded him with 1,000 soldiers. Fuchai wrote a letter and shot it into the Yu camp with an arrow. People say that when the cunning rabbit dies, the hunting dog is cooked. When the enemy state is destroyed, the ministers who planned the victory also perish. Why not spare Wu and leave yourselves a future? Wen Zhong replied, listing 6 crimes of Wu, including the killing of loyal ministers and repeated attacks on other states. With these crimes, how can Wu escape destruction? Heaven once gave Yu to Wu and Wu refused it. Now heaven gives Wu to Yu. How dare we refuse heaven's command? Fuchai wept and said, I failed to avenge my father and spared Goujian. I deserve the destruction of Wu. Goujian offered to grant him land in Yongdong, but Fuchai refused. You destroy my ancestral state and then offer me land. What use is that? I only wish to die. He asked that his face be covered after death, so he would not have to face Wu Zishu and Gongsun Sheng in the afterlife. Then he killed himself with his sword. Goujian entered the city of Gusu. Bo Pi stood proudly among the crowd, believing Goujian owed him gratitude. Goujian summoned him and said calmly, You were the prime minister of Wu. Your king is now on Mount Yang. Why did you not follow him? He ordered Bo Pi executed and his family destroyed in order to repay the loyalty of Wu Zixu. Later, Goujian met the rulers of Qi, Jin, Song, and Lu at Shuzhou. The Zhou king recognized him as the leader of the Eastern Lords. Goujian returned to Wu and held a great feast in the palace. While the ministers celebrated, Goujian showed no joy. Fan Li quietly said, The king no longer wishes the ministers to share in his glory. Suspicion has begun. The next day, Fan Li resigned and left secretly by boat. He later sent Wen Zhong a letter warning that when the rabbit dies, the hunting dog is killed. Wen Zhong did not believe the warning. Later, Goujian sent the sword Shulu to Wen Zhong, the same sword once given to Wu Zishu. Wen Zhong understood the meaning. He sighed that he had not listened to Fan Li and killed himself. Thus, the great story of Yu destroying Wu finally came to its end. Zhibo, whose personal name was Yao, was a man of great talent, but he was also greedy and cruel. His father, Zhi Xuanzi, wanted to make him the heir of the Zhi family. However, a clansman named Ji Guo tried to stop him. Ji Guo said, Yao has 5 strengths, but he lacks one thing, benevolence and righteousness. With such ability and such cruelty, who could endure him? If he becomes the heir, the Zi clan will surely perish. Zhi Xuanzi refused to listen. Zhi Guo could only change his own surname to Fu, to avoid future disaster. After Zhibo gained power, his ambition grew larger and larger. He wanted to control the state of Jin completely. His advisor Zhi Si offered him a strategy. We can pretend that the ruler of Jin has ordered the 3 great families, Han, Zhao, and Wei, to each give up 100 Lai of land as military funding. If they agree, we gain 300 Lai without fighting. If they refuse, we will have a just reason to attack them. Zhou was delighted. He first sent an envoy to Han Hu of the Han family. Han Hu originally wanted to resist, but his advisor Duan Gui persuaded him. It is better to give the land first. Let Zhou become arrogant and careless. Then he will pressure Wei and Zhao. When they begin fighting, we can profit in the end. Han Hu followed the advice and even personally delivered the land documents to Zhou. Zhou held a banquet to entertain Han Hu. During the feast, he showed a painting called Wen Zhong killing 3 tigers to mock Han Hu. He also stretched out his hand and slapped the head of Duan Gui, who was short in stature. The humiliation was obvious. A servant named Ji Guo warned Zhou to be careful about making enemies. Zhou laughed arrogantly. If I do not bring disaster upon others, that is already their good fortune. Who would dare provoke me? After that, Zhou demanded land from Wei Huanzi as well. Wei Zhu accepted the suggestion of his advisor Wen Zhong and also gave up land to appear weak. Finally, Zhou turned to Zhao Xiangzi, whose personal name was Wu Shu. Wu Shu remembered old grudges and said angrily, "The land of Zhao was handed down by our ancestors. I will never surrender it." Zhou was furious. He united the forces of Han and Wei, promising that after destroying Zhao, they would divide its land. 3 armies marched straight toward the Zhao territory. Zhao Xiangzi listened to the advice of his strategist Zhang Mengtan and withdrew his forces into the strong city of Jinyang, where the people were loyal and the defenses were solid. Zhou surrounded Jinyang and attacked for months, but he could not capture the city. One day, Zhou discovered that the source of the Jin River was nearby. A cruel idea came to him. He ordered canals dug to store water and planned to flood the city. After spring rains, mountain floods arrived. Zhou broke the dam and poured water into Jinyang. Inside the city, the streets turned into a vast lake. The people had to build shelters on high ground. In their desperation, they even exchanged their children for food. Yet the soldiers and citizens remained united and refused to surrender. Zhao Xiangzi looked at the huge flood outside the walls and felt deeply worried. Zhang Mengtan said, "Han and Wei follow Zhou only because they have no choice. If Zhao falls, they will be next. I will go and persuade them to turn against him." Late at night, Zhang Mengtan climbed down from the city wall with a rope and secretly entered the camp of Han Hu. He said, "Once the Zhao family is destroyed, the next targets will be Han and Wei. Zhou is endlessly greedy. Today he floods Jinyang with the Jin River. Tomorrow he can flood Anyi with the Fen River and Pingyang with the Jiang River." Han Hu was shocked. At that moment, Wei Zhu was nearby. Han Hu secretly stepped on his foot as a signal. The 2 men immediately swore an oath with Zhang Mengtan and agreed to cooperate from inside and outside. The next day, Zhou invited Han and Wei to climb a hill and watch the floodwaters. With great pride, he said, "Only today have I learned that water can destroy a state." Han and Wei were terrified when they heard this. Zhou's advisor Shi Qi noticed their uneasy expressions and warned Zhou to be cautious. But Zhou foolishly repeated these suspicions directly to Han and Wei. The 2 men strongly denied everything. Zhou believed them and even scolded Shishi for being too suspicious. Seeing that disaster was inevitable, Shishi fled to the state of Qin during the night. On the night they had agreed upon, the armies of Han and Wei suddenly broke the dam. The floodwaters rushed back into the camp of Zhou. At the same time, Zhao Xiangzi led his troops out of Jinyang and attacked. Surrounded on 3 sides, Zhou woke in panic as water filled his camp. He tried to escape by boat, but Zhao soldiers captured him and cut off his head. The entire Zi clan was destroyed. Only Ji Guo, who had changed his surname earlier, survived. After the battle, the families of Zhao, Han, and Wei divided the lands of the Ji clan. From that time on, the ruler of Jin became nothing more than a puppet. Zhao Xiangzi rewarded his followers. Strangely, he gave the highest credit to Gao He, a man who had not achieved great military success, but had always maintained strict respect between ruler and minister. Zhao Xiangzi used this to teach moral conduct to others. Even more shocking was Zhao Xiangzi's hatred for Zhou. He ordered Zhou's skull to be polished with lacquer and turned into a drinking cup. When Zhou's retainer Yu Rang heard this, he wept bitterly. A man should die for the one who truly understands him. He swore to avenge Zhou. Yu Rang first changed his name and identity and entered the Zhao household disguised as a servant in the latrine, planning to assassinate Zhao Xiangzi. He was discovered and captured. Zhao Xiangzi respected his loyalty and released him. Yu Rang refused to give up. To change his appearance and voice, He painted his body with lacquer until his skin was covered in sores, and he swallowed burning charcoal so his voice became hoarse. Even his own wife could no longer recognize him. A friend advised him, "Why not pretend to serve the Zhao family and then assassinate Zhao Xiangzi from inside?" Yu Rang refused. "If I first serve him and then attack him, that would be disloyal. I do this so that disloyal ministers everywhere will feel ashamed." At last, Yu Rang hid beneath the Red Bridge, where Zhao Xiangzi would pass. His final assassination attempt also failed. Zhao Xiangzi asked him, "You once served the Fan family. When the Fan family was destroyed, you did not avenge them. Why are you so determined to avenge Bo?" Yu Rang answered, "The Fan family treated me as an ordinary man, so I repaid them as an ordinary man. Bo treated me as a noble warrior, so I must repay him as a noble warrior." Zhao Xiangzi realized that Yu Rang's determination could not be changed. He removed his own embroidered robe and allowed Yu Rang to strike it symbolically. Yu Rang raised his sword and struck the robe 3 times. Then he shouted loudly, "Now I can go and face Bo." After that, he took his own life. Although Zhao Xiangzi had won, he was deeply shaken by Yu Rang's loyalty. He gave Yu Rang an honorable burial. Yet the shock remained in his heart, and from that time on he fell ill and never fully recovered. Because Yu Rang had struck his robe with a sword, Zhao Wushu fell ill and never recovered. Before his death, he said to his heir, Zhao Huan, "After the 3 families destroyed the Ji clan, their land and power have become too great. You should make an agreement with the Han and Wei families and divide the state of Jin among the 3 of you. Each family should establish its own court and pass it down to its descendants. If you hesitate too long and Jin someday gains a wise and capable ruler, then the ancestral temple of our Zhao family will be in danger." Zhao Huan told these last words to Han Hu. The 3 families secretly planned together. They left only the cities of Jiangzhou and Kuo as the territory of Duke Yu of Jin, and divided all the remaining land among themselves. From then on, the region was called the 3 Jin. This happened in the 4th year of King Cao of Zhou. Not long after that, in the 23rd year of King Weili of Zhou, lightning struck the 9 tripod cauldrons. The cauldrons shook violently and would not stop moving. The 3 families discussed it together. The 9 tripods are the sacred treasure that protects the Zhou royal house. Now lightning has struck them and they tremble without rest. It seems the fate of the Zhou house is coming to an end. Why do we not take advantage of this decline and request the king of Zhou to formally grant us titles? At that time we will have the reality of ruling a state, yet we will not bear the name of seizing power. Would that not be perfect? So the 3 families each sent envoys with heavy gifts to King Weili and requested official recognition. King Weili asked, "Has all the land of Jin already fallen into the hands of the 3 families?" The envoy of the Wei family, Tian Wen, replied, "The ruler of Jin is foolish and incapable, which has caused people to turn away from him." The 3 families used their own strength to punish the rebel Zi clan and took its lands. That does not count as seizing the land of the ruler of Jin. King Weili was delighted. He immediately issued an edict. Zhao Ji was appointed Marquis of Zhao, Han Qian became Marquis of Han, and Wei Si became Marquis of Wei. The 3 families proclaimed the royal edict to the whole land and each established its own court and ancestral temple. Soon afterward, they removed Duke Jing of Jin from the throne and moved him to Chunliu as a common citizen. The state of Jin had begun with Tang Shu and had passed through 29 generations until Duke Jing. At that point, the line of Jin finally came to an end. Among the 3 Jin states, Wei Si, known as Marquis Wen of Wei, was the most wise and capable. He respected scholars and valued talented people. He honored Zixia, a disciple of Confucius, as his teacher and studied the classical writings of the Confucian school. He also treated Tian Zifang and Duangan Mu as honored guests. Duangan Mu lived in seclusion and refused to serve in government. Marquis Wen personally drove his carriage to visit him. When Duangan Mu saw the carriage arriving, he quickly climbed over the back wall of his house to avoid meeting him. Marquis Wen sighed with admiration. Truly a man of great character. He stayed in Shihe for 1 month and went every day to Duangan Mu's gate asking to see him. At last, his sincerity moved him. When people of talent heard that Marquis Wen respected the worthy, they all came from every direction to join him. In the court of Wei, there were more wise and capable men than anywhere else in the world at that time. The state of Qin had several times planned to attack Wei, but they stopped because they feared the many talented people in Wei. Once Marquis Wen had arranged to go hunting in the mountains and forests in the afternoon with the official who managed the hunting grounds. That day, during the morning court session, heavy rain suddenly began to fall. While he was drinking wine and enjoying himself, Marquis Wen asked his attendants, "Has noon arrived yet?" They answered that the time had come. Marquis Wen said, "I promised the officer of the hunting grounds that we would go hunting this afternoon. He must have been waiting for a long time outside the city. Today, the rain makes hunting impossible, but I still cannot fail to keep the appointment." The people in the city saw Marquis Wen going out in the rain and praised him. "Our ruler values promises so greatly. He truly is a man of great trustworthiness." At that time, the ruler of the state of Zhongshan, Jiku, loved drinking through the night. He neglected his ministers, trusted wicked favorites, and the people were very dissatisfied. Marquis Wen of Wei planned to conquer Zhongshan. Zhai Huang recommended a general named Yu Yang. Many ministers opposed the choice. Yue Yang's son Yue Shu is serving as an official in Zhongshan. How can our ruler appoint Yue Yang to lead an army against that state? Zhai Huang explained, "Yue Yang is a man with great ambition. The ruler of Zhongshan once tried to recruit him because his son served there, but Yue Yang refused. He believed the ruler of Zhongshan was foolish and incompetent." Marquis Wen appointed Yue Yang as commander and sent him with 50,000 troops to attack Zhongshan. Yu Yang surrounded the city for 3 months but did not attack. Some ministers slandered him before Marquis Wen. Yue Yang has stopped the army for 3 months only because of a single message from his son Yue Shu. This shows how much he values father and son affection. If the ruler does not recall him soon, our state will waste people and money with no result. Marquis Wen neither agreed nor denied the accusations. Instead, he often sent envoys to Yue Yang's camp to reward and encourage the soldiers. At the same time, he ordered a mansion to be built for Yu Yang in the capital of Wei. A minister of Zhongshan named Gong Sunjiao then offered a scheme. "We should tie Yue Shu to a tall pole and threaten Yue Yang. If he does not withdraw his troops, we will kill his son." Yu Shu was tied to the pole and cried loudly, "Father, save me." Yue Yang saw this and shouted angrily, "You unworthy son! You chase wealth and honor and fail to judge the situation. Now you cry like a child begging for mercy." He even raised his bow as if to shoot his own son. Gongsun Zhao suggested another plan. "We should boil Yue Shu into soup and send it to Yue Yang. When Yue Yang sees it, his mind will surely fall into confusion. Then we can attack while he is grieving." Jiku had no choice. He ordered the soup to be prepared and sent together with Yue Shu's severed head to Yue Yang. When Yue Yang saw the head of his son, he shouted angrily, "You unworthy son, you did not understand the greater cause and served a foolish ruler. This end was only to be expected." He immediately took the bowl of soup and drank it in front of the messenger from Zhongshan. Then he said, "Please thank your ruler for the soup. When the city falls, I will thank him in person. My army also has large cooking pots waiting for him." When the messenger returned and reported this, Jiku feared that after the city fell he would suffer humiliation. He fled into the inner palace and hanged himself. Yue Yang returned victorious. Marquis Wen personally led the ministers outside the city to welcome him. He said, "You lost your son for the sake of the state. I feel deep sorrow for you." Yu Yang bowed and answered, "My lord entrusted the great affairs of the state and the army to me. How could I allow personal feelings to damage the affairs of the state?" Marquis Wen held a banquet on a high platform in the palace to celebrate Yue Yang's victory. After the feast, he ordered attendants to give Yue Yang 2 sealed boxes. When Yue Yang returned home and opened them, he discovered that they were filled with memorials written by court officials. Everyone accused him of having rebellious intentions. Yue Yang was shocked. "So there were people at court who slandered me like this. If our lord had not trusted me completely, how could I have achieved today's success?" The next day, Yu Yang went to court to thank the ruler. Marquis Wen wanted to reward him with titles and lands, but Yu Yang quickly declined. The conquest of Zhongshan depended on the ruler's leadership in the court. "I only offered a small service outside the capital. How dare I claim the merit?" Marquis Wen granted him the territory of Lingshou as his fief, but removed his military command. Zhai Huang did not understand the decision. Li Ke explained, "It is natural for people to care most about their own children. Yue Yang could even abandon his own son. How could he possibly care for others?" At that time, the position of governor of Ye City became vacant. Zhai Huang recommended a man named Haiman Bao. When Siman Bao arrived in Ye, he found the countryside desolate and the population very small. People explained, "Every year we must give a bride to the river god. That is why the people here are so poor." Shiman Bao said, "How could a river god marry a wife? Tell me the details." An old man explained, "The river god is said to like beautiful women. Every year a young girl must be sent to him as his bride. Only then will the weather be favorable and the harvest good. If not, the river god will become angry and cause floods. The whole ritual is organized by an old witch. She collects huge amounts of money from the people. Only a small part is used for the ceremony, and the rest she keeps for herself. On the day of the ritual, He Menbao arrived at the riverbank dressed in official robes. He said to the old witch, "Please bring the bride of the river god here. I would like to take a look." After seeing the girl, Ji Menbao shook his head. The river god is a noble spirit. Only a woman of extraordinary beauty should be worthy of him. This girl is not beautiful enough. Please go and report to the river god that we will find a more beautiful woman later. He then ordered the soldiers to seize the old witch and throw her into the river. After waiting for a while, He Menbao said, "The old witch is too old. She has gone so long and still has not returned. Let one of her disciples go and hurry her." The soldiers grabbed one of the disciples and threw her into the water as well. After a moment, Ji Menbao said again, "Why has this disciple not returned yet?" Another disciple was thrown into the river. After waiting again, Ji Menbao said, "These women cannot even deliver a simple message. Let the village elders go and speak clearly to the river god." The elders were also pushed into the river. After another hour passed, Ji Menbao said, "The elders are old and probably cannot explain things clearly. Let the local officials and wealthy men go and report to the river god." The officials and rich men were terrified. They fell to their knees and begged for mercy, knocking their heads on the ground until their faces were covered in blood. Ji Menbao said loudly, "The river water flows away and never returns. Where is this river god? You have murdered innocent girls. Your crimes deserve death." They cried and begged, saying, "We were deceived by the witch. Please spare us." Ji Menbao said, "The witch is already dead. From now on, if anyone dares to speak again about marrying a bride to the river god, I will make him the matchmaker and send him first to report to the river god." He confiscated the property of the officials, the rich men, and the elders. All the money they had extorted was returned to the people. Those who had fled the region heard the news and gradually returned home. Ji Menbao then organized workers to dig 12 irrigation channels along the Zhang River. This weakened the river's current and also provided water for crops along the banks. From then on, the people had enough food and clothing, and Ye City prospered. One day, Marquis Wen said to Jai Huang, "The region of Shihei lies on our western border and is the route the Qin people must pass if they invade Wei. Who should guard Shihei?" Jai Huang thought for a long time and replied, "I recommend a man named Wu Qi. He has the talent of a great general. He has recently come to Wei from the state of Lu. Your lordship should summon him quickly and employ him." Marquis Wen said, "Do you mean the same Wu Qi who killed his own wife in order to become a general in the state of Lu? I have heard that he loves wealth and women and that he is cruel by nature. How can I employ such a man?" Jai Huang answered, "When I recommend talent, it is so they can use their abilities and achieve merit for the ruler. As for their personal character and habits, that is not my concern." Marquis Wen said, "Then go and summon him for me." Wu Qi, a man from the state of Wei, was known as a ruthless and determined person when he was young. He once bit his own arm and swore to his mother, "If I do not become a high official, I will never return home." Later he went to the state of Lu to study. When his mother died, he did not go back to attend her funeral. His teacher Xing Shen expelled him from the school. From that time on, Wu Qi abandoned the Confucian path and turned to military studies. He trained hard for 3 years and became a remarkable military strategist. At that time, the state of Qi attacked Lu. Duke Mu of Lu wanted to appoint Wu Qi, but he hesitated because Wu Qi's wife was from Qi. He feared Wu Qi might secretly help the enemy. Wu Qi returned home and said to his wife, "I want to achieve great merit, but to remove the ruler's suspicion, I need your head." Before the words had even settled, he raised his sword and killed her. Then he carried her head to see Duke Mu of Lu. The duke felt uneasy about such cruelty, but after persuasion from the prime minister, he still appointed Wu Qi as the great general. After taking command, Wu Qi lived together with his soldiers. He ate the same food and slept in the same conditions. Once a soldier developed a severe sore, Wu Qi personally sucked out the pus to treat him. The soldiers were deeply moved and swore to follow him to the death. Facing the powerful army of Qi, Wu Qi first pretended to be weak. He acted as if he wanted to negotiate peace, causing the Qi army to lower its guard. Then he suddenly launched a surprise attack from 3 directions and defeated the Qi army completely, chasing them all the way to Pinglu. Duke Mu of Lu was overjoyed and promoted him to the position of High Minister. But soon, rumors spread everywhere. People said Wu Qi was greedy for wealth and women and had secretly accepted bribes from Qi. Duke Mu began to grow suspicious. Wu Qi feared he might be executed, so he fled to the state of Wei during the night. Marquis Wen of Wei had long heard of Wu Qi's reputation. He immediately appointed him governor of Shihei. In Wei, Wu Qi built the fortified city of Wu. He trained elite soldiers and took advantage of internal troubles in Qin. In a short time, he captured 5 Qin cities. Because of this, Qin did not dare advance eastward for many years. Wei therefore became the strongest state among the 3 Jin. Later, Marquis Wen of Wei died, and his son Marquis Wu of Wei succeeded to the throne. He appointed Tianwen as prime minister. Wu Qi was dissatisfied and stopped Tianwen to compare their merits. In leading troops, governing a state, and guarding the frontier, in which of these are you better than me? Tianwen honestly admitted that he was inferior in all of them. Then he asked another question. Now a new ruler has just taken the throne and the hearts of the people are unsettled. At such a time, is it better to have a powerful general whose achievements overshadow the ruler, or a civil minister who can coordinate different factions and stabilize the court? Wu Qi fell silent for a long time. At last he admitted that Tianwen was right, but in his heart he still felt deeply frustrated. Not long after that, fearing he might be harmed, Wu Qi fled again, this time to the state of Chu. King Dao of Chu trusted Wu Qi completely and appointed him as prime minister. Wu Qi carried out bold reforms. He dismissed many unnecessary officials, abolished the hereditary privileges of the noble families, and used the money saved to strengthen the army. The military power of Chu quickly grew strong, and its reputation shook the feudal states. No state dared easily provoke Chu. However, when King Dao of Chu died, the nobles whose privileges had been taken away immediately rebelled and hunted Wu Qi down. With no way to escape, Wu Qi made a desperate move. He threw himself onto the corpse of King Dao. The rebels shot arrows wildly. Wu Qi was pierced with arrows like a hedgehog, and even the body of King Dao was struck by several arrows. Before dying, Wu Qi shouted, "My death does not matter, but you have shot arrows into the king's corpse. That is a crime of the greatest disloyalty. Wait and see, your entire clans will be destroyed." Afterward, the new ruler, King Su of Chu, investigated the crime of shooting the royal corpse. More than 70 noble families involved in the rebellion were all executed. Wu Qi died, but even in death he managed to take revenge through his final strategy. Now let us turn our attention to the state of Qi. When King Wei of Qi first came to the throne, he was addicted to wine and pleasure and neglected state affairs. Other states constantly bullied Qi. A man named Zhou came to see him carrying a zither. He spoke only about the principles of playing the instrument but never actually played it. He said, "Your Majesty possesses the state of Qi but does not govern it. That is like me holding a zither but never playing it. How could the people possibly be satisfied?" King Wei was deeply shaken. He immediately appointed Zhou as prime minister. After Zhou took office, he encouraged open criticism. A debater named Chunyu Kun did not accept him at first and used 5 metaphors to test him. Zhou answered each one calmly and clearly, and Chunyu Kun finally admired him. Not long afterward, King Wei noticed something strange. Everyone around him praised the magistrate of A City and criticized the magistrate of Jimo. The king secretly sent people to investigate. The truth turned out to be the opposite. The magistrate of Jimo governed diligently and cared for the people, but because he refused to offer bribes, he was slandered. The magistrate of A neglected his duties, yet he bribed those around the king and received their praise. King Wei gathered all officials at court. In front of everyone, he richly rewarded the magistrate of Jimo. Then he ordered the magistrate of A and dozens of corrupt courtiers who had taken bribes and twisted the truth to be thrown into a huge boiling cauldron and executed. This shocking punishment terrified the entire country. From that day on, no one dared falsify reports. The state of Qi soon became prosperous and powerful, and King Wei rose to dominance among the states. At this time, the world was divided among 7 powerful states: Qi, Chu, Yan, Han, Zhou, Wei, and Qin. In the west, the state of Qin had once been rejected by the central states. During the reign of Duke Xian of Qin, a strange rain of gold once fell from the sky. The royal historian predicted that Qin would one day unite the whole land. After Duke Xian died, Duke Xiao of Qin came to the throne. He never forgot the dream of restoring the glory of Qin. Therefore, he issued a proclamation to recruit talented people. A great drama that would change the course of history was about to begin. Gongsun Yang, a man from the state of Wei, later became known as Shang Yang. He came from a minor branch of the Wei royal family and loved studying the teachings of the legalist school. He first went to serve under Gongsun Kuo, the prime minister of Wei, and quickly gained his trust and respect. When Gongsun Kuo was seriously ill, King Hui of Wei came to visit him and asked who should succeed him as prime minister. Gongsun Kuo strongly recommended Gongsun Yang and said, "This young man may be young, but he is a rare genius. If your majesty does not intend to use him, then you must kill him. Never let him leave Wei and serve another state. If he does, he will surely become a great threat." King Hui of Wei agreed with polite words, but in his heart he laughed. "This old man must be confused by illness. First he tells me to appoint the man, then he tells me to kill him. What is so special about Gongsun Yang?" Afterward, Gongsun Kuo told Gongsun Yang the truth and advised him to flee at once. But Gongsun Yang calmly replied, "If the king does not listen to your advice to appoint me, why would he listen to your advice to kill me?" Sure enough, King Hui of Wei ignored the matter completely. At that time, in the west, Duke Zhou of Qin had posted a proclamation seeking talented people. Gongsun Yang used the help of a favored courtier named Jing Jian to obtain an audience with Duke Zhou. During the first two meetings, Gongsun Yang spoke at length about the ancient ideals of rule practiced by legendary sages such as Yao, Shun, Yu, and Tang. He talked about the way of the sage kings and the way of humane rule. Duke Zhou grew so bored that he nearly fell asleep. Afterward, he even blamed Jing Jian for recommending the wrong person. Gongsun Yang realized what kind of ruler he was dealing with. At their third meeting, he changed his approach completely. This time, he spoke about the way of hegemony. He explained how to strengthen the state and the army, reward farming and military service, and enforce strict laws. Duke Zhou listened with complete fascination. The two of them talked for 3 days and 3 nights without feeling tired. In the end, Duke Zhou appointed Gongsun Yang as left chief minister and gave him full authority to carry out reforms. To win the trust of the people, Gongsun Yang placed a long wooden pole at the southern gate of the capital. The pole was about 3 zhang in length. He announced, "Anyone who carries this pole to the northern gate will receive a reward of 10 pieces of gold." Many people gathered to watch, but no one dared move it. Then Gongsun Yang increased the reward to 50 pieces of gold. Finally, a strong man stepped forward and carried the pole to the northern gate. He immediately received the gold. This became known as establishing trust by moving the wood. After that, new laws were announced. The old well field system was abolished, private farming was encouraged, military merit was rewarded, and the system of collective responsibility was enforced. The laws were strict. Even when the crown prince broke the law, Gongsun Yang did not show mercy. He punished the prince's 2 tutors. One had his nose cut off, and the other had his face tattooed as a criminal. From that moment on, the laws of Qin were strictly obeyed. The people became brave in public battles but cautious in private disputes. The strength of Qin quickly rose to become the greatest power in the world. Now the story turns to a place called Ghost Valley. A mysterious man named Goujian lived there in seclusion. He was skilled in mathematics, military strategy, political persuasion, and even the mystical arts of cultivation. He had 4 famous disciples: Sun Bin, Pang Huan, Su Qin, and Zhang Yi. Pang Huan studied military strategy for 3 years and believed he had mastered it. When he heard that the state of Wei was recruiting talent, he decided to leave the mountain. Goujian asked him to pick a flower for divination. Pang Huan found only a withered flower of the birthwort plant. Goujian interpreted the omen and said, "This plant has 12 blossoms, so you will enjoy prosperity for 12 years. The character beside the word ghost forms the name Wei, so your rise will happen in the state of Wei. But the flower is already withered, so your ending may not be good. Remember these 8 words: when you meet sheep you will prosper, when you meet horses you will decline." Before leaving, Pang Huan swore that if he achieved success, he would recommend his senior brother Sun Bin, otherwise he would die under a rain of arrows. When Pang Huan arrived in Wei, a chef happened to bring out steamed lamb at the court banquet. This matched the omen meeting sheep brings prosperity. Soon after, King Hui of Wei appointed him as commander-in-chief. Pang Huan won many battles and gained great fame. But he completely forgot his promise to recommend Sun Bin. One day, Mo Di passed through Ghost Valley. After hearing that Sun Bin possessed extraordinary talent, he recommended him to King Hui of Wei. He said that Sun Bin had inherited the secret military teachings of his grandfather Sun Wu and was unmatched in the world. King Hui became interested and ordered Pang Huan to write a letter inviting Sun Bin to Wei. Pang Huan was secretly jealous. He feared Sun Bin might take his position. Outwardly, he wrote a sincere invitation, but in his heart he was already planning how to destroy him. When Sun Bin received the letter, Goujian again told him to pick a flower for divination. Sun Bin picked a yellow chrysanthemum from the table. Although the stem was broken, The flower remained strong even after frost. Guiguzi interpreted the sign. You will suffer harm, but in the end your fame will spread across the world. Your success will take place in your homeland, the state of Qi. Then he added the character for moon beside the character bin in his name, changing it to the character bin that means kneecap removal. This hinted that Sun Bin would suffer the punishment of having his kneecaps cut. Guiguzi also gave him a silk pouch and told him to open it only in a moment of great danger. Sun Bin followed the messenger to Wei. Pang Huan welcomed him warmly on the surface, but secretly he gathered false accusations and claimed that Sun Bin had secretly communicated with the state of Qi. King Hui of Wei became furious and ordered Sun Bin to be executed. Pang Huan pretended to plead for mercy. Instead of death, Sun Bin was sentenced to the punishment of removing his kneecaps, and his face was tattooed as a criminal. In an instant, Sun Bin became a cripple. Pang Huan then pretended to take care of him in his own residence. In truth, he wanted Sun Bin to rewrite the lost military classic known as The Art of War. Pang Huan planned to kill him after the book was finished. At the same time, 2 other disciples of Guiguzi, Su Qin and Zhang Yi, also finished their studies and prepared to leave the mountain. Guiguzi performed divination for them as well. He predicted that Su Qin would enjoy good fortune first but suffer later, while Zhang Yi would face hardship first but succeed later. He advised them to support each other. He also gave Su Qin a book called the Yin Talisman and told him to study it carefully again and again, saying that its value would become clear with time. After that, Guiguzi himself sailed away across the sea. Later legends said that he became an immortal. Thus began the great struggle between Sun Bin and Pang Huan, a battle of life and death. At the same time, the stories of Su Qin and Zhang Yi, who would one day influence the whole world with their diplomacy, were about to unfold. Sun Bin arrived in the state of Wei and stayed in the residence of Pang Huan. When King Hui of Wei heard that Sun Bin had inherited the true teachings of Sun Zi's military strategy, he was extremely pleased. He wanted to appoint Sun Bin as deputy military advisor, so that he and Pang Huan could share command of the army. Pang Huan felt jealous. On the surface, he declined the idea and said, Sun Bin is my elder brother in learning. How could an elder brother serve as the assistant to his younger brother? It would be better to appoint him first as a guest minister. After he achieves merit, I can then step aside. King Hui agreed. The title of guest minister sounded honorable, but it carried no real power. By doing this, Pang Huan effectively removed Sun Bin from authority. After that, Pang Huan often pretended to ask Sun Bin about military strategy. In truth, he wanted to obtain the secret military book in Sun Bin's possession. Sun Bin answered honestly. He said their teacher had allowed him to read the book for only 3 days, and then took it back, but he still remembered most of its contents. Pang Huan then persuaded Sun Bin to write the text down from memory. Soon Pang Huan arranged a vicious plot. He ordered his trusted follower Xu Jia to disguise himself as a merchant from the state of Qi. Xu Jia brought a forged letter that pretended to be from Sun Bin's 2 brothers. The letter urged Sun Bin to return to Qi and reunite with his family. Sun Bin believed it and wrote a reply. In the letter he said, Although I am now in Wei, my heart still longs for my homeland. One day I will surely find a way to return. After Pang Huan obtained the letter, he secretly changed several key sentences. He altered the words into, Although I serve in Wei, my heart belongs to Qi. I will soon return there. Then he presented this so-called secret letter to King Hui of Wei and accused Sun Bin of secretly communicating with Qi and preparing to betray Wei. King Hui of Wei became furious and ordered Sun Bin to be executed. Pang Huan pretended to plead for mercy and suggested another punishment. If we kill him, the world may criticize your majesty. It would be better to remove his kneecaps and tattoo his face. He will become a cripple. That way the danger is removed and your majesty can still appear merciful. The foolish king agreed. Poor Sun Bin was dragged to the execution ground. Amid terrible screams, his kneecaps were cut out, and the words secretly communicating with a foreign state were tattooed on his face. He fainted from the pain. After he woke up, Pang Huan pretended to care for him. He applied medicine and bandages and kept Sun Bin in his residence. At the same time, he forced Sun Bin to continue writing out the military text from memory. Sun Bin felt grateful for what he believed was Pang Huan's kindness in saving his life. So he wrote the book with all his strength. One day, a servant named Cheng secretly told him the truth. The commander is waiting until you finish writing the military book. After that, he will cut off your food and starve you to death. Sun Bin was shocked. Suddenly, he remembered the silk pouch that his teacher Guiguzi had given him before he left. He opened it and found only 3 words written inside. pretend to be mad. That very night, Sun Bin suddenly began acting insane. Sometimes he laughed wildly, sometimes he burst into tears. He threw the written military text into the fire and smashed bowls and dishes everywhere. Pang Huan came to test him. Sun Bin spoke nonsense and even knelt toward the pigsty, shouting, "Master Guiguzi, save me." Pang Huan still suspected him, so he ordered Sun Bin to be thrown into the pigsty. Food and wine were brought to test him. Sun Bin cursed and said the wine was poisoned. Then he grabbed lumps of pig manure and stuffed them into his mouth. Seeing this, Pang Huan finally believed he had truly gone mad. He lowered his guard and allowed Sun Bin to wander through the streets begging like a madman. At that time, Qin Huali, a disciple of Mo Di, learned about Sun Bin's suffering and reported it to King Wei of Qi. King Wei immediately sent the famous debater Chun Yukun to Wei as an envoy, secretly arranging a rescue. One night, they hid Sun Bin inside a warm carriage. They also dressed a substitute in Sun Bin's dirty clothing to mislead Pang Huan. When Chun Yukun's carriage left the territory of Wei, the substitute slipped away. Only then did Pang Huan discover that Sun Bin had disappeared. With no other choice, he falsely reported that Sun Bin had jumped into a well and died. Sun Bin safely returned to the state of Qi and stayed in the home of General Tianji. One day, Tianji was racing horses with King Wei of Qi. Tianji's horses were always slightly weaker, and he kept losing money. Sun Bin offered a strategy. Use your lowest horse to race against the king's best horse. Use your best horse against the king's middle horse, and use your middle horse against the king's weakest horse. The result was 1 loss and 2 victories. Tianji won a large amount of gold. King Wei was amazed by Sun Bin's intelligence and appointed him as military advisor. Not long afterward, Pang Huan of Wei led a great army to attack the state of Zhou and surrounded its capital city Handan. Zhou asked Qi for help. Tianji wanted to march directly to Handan and break the siege, but Sun Bin proposed another plan. The elite troops of Wei are all in Zhou. Their homeland must be nearly empty. Instead of fighting at Handan, we should attack the Wei capital Daliang. Pang Huan will have no choice but to return to defend it. We can ambush him halfway and win a great victory. This strategy later became famous as besieging Wei to rescue Zhou. Pang Huan indeed fell into the trap. He quickly withdrew his army to rescue the capital. At the place called Giling, Sun Bin arranged a formation known as the Reversed 8 Gates Formation. Pang Huan believed he understood the formation and rushed into it, but the formation constantly changed. The Wei army was surrounded and trapped. 20,000 soldiers were killed or wounded, and Pang Huan barely escaped. Later, Zhou Ji, the prime minister of Qi, accepted bribes from Pang Huan. He plotted against Tianji and Sun Bin and falsely accused them of rebellion. The 2 men were forced to surrender their military authority to avoid disaster. Only after King Xuan of Qi came to the throne were they restored to their positions. At this time, the state of Han joined with Zhou and prepared to attack Wei. Pang Huan again took command of the army. He advised King Hui of Wei to strike first and attack Han before they could unite. King Hui appointed Crown Prince Shen as the supreme commander and Pang Huan as the chief general. They led 100,000 troops and marched straight toward Han. An even greater confrontation was about to begin. The famous Battle of Meiling. Pang Huan and the Crown Prince of Wei, Prince Shen, led the army to attack the state of Han. Their troops advanced rapidly and won victory after victory. Along the way, a common man named Xu Sheng advised Prince Shen, "You are already the heir to the throne. If you win this war, you will simply inherit the crown as expected, but if you lose, you may die and the state may fall. It would be wiser to withdraw the army." Prince Shen was tempted and considered retreating, but Pang Huan strongly objected. He said that retreating before battle was the same as desertion. Under his pressure, the army continued forward and surrounded the capital of Han. Han was in great danger and asked Qi for help. King Xuan of Qi gathered his ministers to discuss the situation. Sun Bin offered a plan. If we rescue Han immediately, we will only be taking the blow meant for them. If we do nothing, Wei may destroy Han and become even stronger. Instead, we should promise to send help but wait. Let Han and Wei exhaust each other. When both sides are weakened, we can intervene. That way we will win easily with little effort. The king followed this strategy. Because they believed help was coming, the people of Han fought desperately. Meanwhile, the army of Wei also suffered heavy losses. When the time was right, Qi finally sent troops. Tianji served as commander and Sun Bin as military advisor. Sun Bin used the same strategy as before, once again applying the plan known as besieging Wei to rescue Zhou. Instead of going directly to Han, the Qi army marched straight toward Daliang, the capital of Wei. When Pang Huan heard this news, he was shocked. He had no choice but to abandon the campaign against Han and hurry back to defend his own capital. Sun Bin knew that the Wei army was brave but arrogant and looked down on Qi soldiers, so he arranged another clever plan known as the reducing cooking fires to lure the enemy. On the first day, the Qi army dug 100,000 cooking pits. On the second day, they reduced the number to 50,000. On the third day, only 30,000 remained. Peng Huan inspected the camps along the road and was delighted. The Qi soldiers are cowardly. In just 3 days, more than half of them have already deserted. Believing the enemy was fleeing, he left the slower infantry behind and led 20,000 elite troops in a rapid pursuit day and night. Sun Bin had calculated that Peng Huan would arrive at Maling Pass around sunset. The place was narrow and dangerous, with steep mountains and deep valleys on both sides. Sun Bin ordered trees to be cut down to block the road, leaving only one large tree standing. The bark of that tree was stripped away and 6 words were carved on it: Peng Huan will die beneath this tree. 10,000 crossbowmen were hidden in ambush nearby, with orders to release their arrows as soon as they saw firelight. As night fell, Peng Huan reached Maling. Seeing the road blocked, he noticed faint writing on the tree. He ordered a torch to be lit so he could read the words. The moment the firelight appeared, thousands of arrows shot out at once. The Wei army collapsed instantly in chaos. Peng Huan was severely wounded. Knowing he could not escape, he sighed deeply. In the end, I have only helped make this young man famous. Then he drew his sword and killed himself. The Qi army pursued the fleeing enemy and completely destroyed the Wei forces. Crown Prince Shen was captured, and Peng Huan's son Peng Ying died in battle. The strength of Wei suffered a devastating blow. When they returned to Qi, King Xuan held a grand victory banquet. Sun Bin quietly withdrew from public life after presenting 13 chapters of The Art of War. He retired to the mountains, and legend later said he became an immortal. Prime Minister Zhu Ji felt ashamed because he had once plotted against Tianji. He resigned voluntarily, and Tianji took his place as Prime Minister. In the later years of King Xuan's reign, however, he again became absorbed in wine and pleasure and trusted corrupt ministers. One day, an extremely ugly woman named Zhongli Chun asked to see him. She used exaggerated gestures to warn the king. When she widened her eyes, it meant the border beacons were burning and the frontier was in danger. When she showed her teeth, it meant honest advice was being rejected and the court was closed to criticism. When she waved her hands, it meant corrupt officials needed to be driven away. When she slapped her knees, it meant the luxurious towers and palaces that exhausted the people should be torn down. King Xuan suddenly awakened from his mistakes. He corrected his conduct and even made Zhongli Chun his queen. The state of Qi soon returned to prosperity. Now the story turns back to Qin. Shang Yang, whose original name was Wei Yang, saw that Wei had recently suffered a major defeat. He advised Duke Shao of Qin to seize the opportunity and attack Wei. The Qin army marched to the border. Wei sent Prince Ang to command its forces. Prince Ang had once been a friend of Shang Yang. Shang Yang wrote him a letter and invited him to drink wine and discuss peace. Prince Ang trusted him completely and gladly attended the meeting. During the banquet, Shang Yang suddenly smashed his cup as a signal. Hidden soldiers rushed out and captured Prince Ang alive. They then used the confusion to trick open the gates of Wu City and defeated the Wei army. King Hui of Wei had no choice but to surrender the lands west of the Yellow River and ask for peace. He even moved the capital to Daliang. From that time on, the state of Wei was often called the state of Liang. Because of his achievements, Shang Yang was granted 15 cities in Shangyu and received the title Lord Shang. His power reached its highest point. But a guest named Zhao Liang warned him, "Your laws are too strict, and you have made too many enemies. You have especially offended the crown prince and the old noble families. Once Duke Shao dies, your life will be in danger. It would be wiser to step away while you still can." Shang Yang ignored the warning. Not long afterward, Duke Shao died. The crown prince Si became king, known as King Huiwen of Qin. The nobles who had once been punished by Shang Yang quickly took revenge. They accused him of rebellion. Shang Yang fled. When he reached Hanggu Pass, he tried to stay at an inn, but the innkeeper said, "Lord Shang himself ordered that anyone without proper documents cannot stay here. Those who break the law will be executed." Shang Yang looked up to the sky and sighed deeply. "The laws I created have finally destroyed me." With no way to escape, he tried to raise troops in his own territory, but he was defeated and captured. King Huiwen ordered that he be executed by tearing his body apart with chariots, and his entire family was also put to death. Thus, the man who had made Qin rich and powerful met a tragic end. After Shang Yang's death, Gongsun became prime minister of Qin. He continued the policy of expansion. Qin now began calling its ruler king and demanded that other states offer land and tribute. At that time, the state of Chu had just destroyed the state of Yue and was very powerful. Chu refused Qin's unreasonable demands. As Qin's pressure increased, a man from Luoyang named Su Qin was preparing to appear on the stage of history, carrying with him a grand strategy known as the Alliance of Vertical Unity. Qin was growing stronger and stronger. At the same time, the conflicts among the other states were becoming deeper and more complicated. Qi, Chu, Yan, Han, Zhou, and Wei all suspected one another. Yet they were all worried about the same thing, the rapidly rising power of Qin in the west. At this moment, a young man from Luoyang stepped onto the stage of history with an astonishing plan. His name was Su Qin. He proposed a bold idea: unite the 6 states and resist Qin together. But the question is, can these states, which have fought each other for so many years, truly put aside their hatred and form an alliance? Can Su Qin's strategy of vertical alliance really change the balance of power across the land? And will Qin simply stand by and watch? The real struggle between the alliance of the 6 states and the rising power of Qin has only just begun. We will continue the story in the next episode.
Sky in light, Nua healed the broken heart. Fuchai traced the world's design. Every age leaves stories bright. Yaya dynasty shaped bronze. Shang dynasty cast leave stories bright. History and myth ignite in endless light. China's history moves in mystery through the night. Footsteps of this land enchant the world in light. Kingdoms dynasty turn war to tales. Qin dynasty led ink and mountains bloom. Sui dynasty carved the Grand Canal. Tang dynasty crowned the world with art. Song dynasty raised learn.